Welcome back to day 2 of Edge of Eternities Previews. Uh, if you're on YouTube, you go and watch us live. On Twitch, I go live on a random basis, but it's always there. Just follow the link tree to go and get my link. But let's dive right into this. Card number 1 for today is Terra Pact Intimidator. It's a 2 mana Kavu Scout. That's a 2/1. When it enters, target opponent may have you create 2 lander tokens. If they don't, put 2+1/+1 counters on this creature. This is an interesting card because I feel like this card isn't going to be really good anywhere in a constructed environment or in Commander. But I feel like in limited that the decision point your opponent's going to have to make early game is going to be really interesting, and I really enjoy it. And if you're wondering why, if you saw cards that have come out but I haven't previewed them yet, I'm taking them all straight from Scryfall. So if they're not on Scryfall, I'm not previewing them. Systems Override is a 3 mana red sorcery where you gain control of target artifact or creature until end of turn. Untap that permanent, it gains haste until end of turn. If it's a spacecraft, put 10 charge counters on it. If you do, remove 10 charge counters from it at the beginning of the next end step. So overall, I don't think this card is going to be good. And in limited, these types of cards tend to not be very good either. There could be a edge case scenario that if you are playing a spacecraft deck in limited, that you do want this card just to go and crew the spacecraft for a turn and be able to go and attack with it the following turn, or attack with it that turn and then have it become just a artifact the following turn. War Maker Gunship is 3 mana for a mono red artifact spacecraft. Has, when it enters, it deals damage equal to the number of artifacts you control to target creature and opponent controls. And the station cost is 6, and it has flying, and it's a 4/3. I don't think it's very good. Sure, it's removal for a creature, and it's really showing where red and white, as well as you saw with the legendary creatures yesterday, really want to lean into those artifacts. However, I don't think the card is very good, and it's probably not going to see play anywhere. You'll play in limited because removal is always at a premium. Nutrient Block is a 1 mana artifact food that's indestructible. That for 2 and tapping it, you sacrifice it and gain 3 life. And when it's put into a graveyard from the battlefield, draw a card. So it is a 3 mana gain 3 draw a card. Really not going to be that good. I could see like Storm Cheerio type decks wanting to play this because it has extra utility. It cantrips itself, uh, especially if you have another way to sacrifice it beyond just using its own ability to sacrifice it. And I could see this being one of those cards that you really want in limited a lot just because of the card advantage and life gain it gives you. Debris Field Crusher is a 5 mana mono red artifact spacecraft. When it enters, it deals 3 damage to any target. Its station cost is 8. Has flying, and for 2 mana, the spacecraft gets +2/+0 until end of turn. It's a 1/5. It's awful. This is probably one of the cards that I think is going to be the most impactful. Broodguard Elite. It's X green green. Enters with X +1/+1 counters on it. And when it leaves the battlefield, you put its counters on target creature you control. So it essentially acts as a buff, a permanent buff for your creatures. So early game, like on turn 2, you cast this for 2 and a green. When it leaves, you make one of your creatures, you give one of your creatures 2+1/+1 counters. And there have been people messing around with the green, either just counters in general, whether it's Selesnya or Abzan counters. And it's also possible that green's going to be able to take off in standard. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this seeing some kind of play, especially when you could go and play it a second time from exile if you play it for the warp cost the first time. Welcome, welcome, Darth. Cavaron Memorial World is the mono red planet. All the planets, their station cost is 12. For 2 and tapping it, you sacrifice a land, Create a 2/2 colorless robot artifact creature token. Then creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain haste until end of turn. It's 3 mana, plus you're losing a land. Endgame, I could see this being good just because it gives you a buff and it allows you to give your creatures haste. Most of the other time, I think that this card's going to end up being bad and it's just going to end up being a red tap land. Yeah, and that planet got blown out. It's definitely seen better days, Darth. Yeah, I so far I don't think any of the planets are worth the overall investment of 12. I think the blue one has probably been the best one out of them. Uh the this one just doesn't feel like it's impactful enough, but I could see it going and being a closer. Dawnsire's Sunstar Dreadnought is a 5 mana spacecraft. Its station cost is one of the ones that has two different stations. It's either 10 whenever you attack, it deals 100 damage to up to one target creature or planeswalker. Or if you get it up to 20, it still keeps that first station ability, but then it gains flying and is a 20/20. It is also a legendary artifact, so it could also be a commander. Um, this is whenever you attack, which makes sense because if it was only when this attacked, stationing at 10 would make no sense. Where this makes the most amount of sense to me isn't using it as a removal spell. It's using it on creatures that whenever they're dealt damage, deal damage to another target, specifically another player. You know, like your Brash Taunters or Screaming Nemesis. You deal 100 damage to your own Screaming Nemesis, then your Screaming Nemesis, when it dies, deals 100 damage to your opponent. Now, you do have to get it to 10, and I feel like Screaming Nemesis and Station play in two different decks, so I really don't see it working. However, if you are doing like, I could see this being a fun deck if you want to play it in Commander where you're just dealing direct damage to permanents you control. Adagio Windswept Bastion is the white land. It's 4 and tap it, so a total of 5 mana. To create a token that's a copy of target artifact or enchantment you control, except it's legendary. So I wish that it would be if it's legendary, it's non-legendary instead. However, they have been going and leaning into white being the color that cares about legendary permanents. So it makes sense that the land is going to want to go and make a legendary permanent. What artifacts or enchantments are important enough for you to only get one other token copy of for 5 mana? I don't know if there are any. I don't think there are any in standard right now. And I don't know what there would be in Commander that I would want to go and make another copy of. However, in Commander, in monocolored decks, in the casual Commander, any of these lands you're able to just stick in there because, they might be impactful and it's okay to play some tap lands. Mouth of the Storm is a 7 mana blue elemental with flying, ward 2, and when it enters, creatures your opponent's control gets -3, -0 until your next turn, and it's a 6/6. It's just a limited card, and probably not even a very good one. Cosmogran Zenith, a 3 mana human soldier that's a 2/4. That when you cast your second spell each turn, you choose two 1/1 white human soldier creature tokens. You create two 1/1 white human soldier creature tokens. I think I said choose the first time. And then, or you could put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. I really like this card. It having the additional toughness is important because it has 4 instead of 3. And 3 is kind of, 2 and 3 is kind of where you start going and having to worry. Because, like, your nowhere to runs, your virtue to persistence, those are all -3, -3. So getting up to 4 is good. 2 is where you have to worry, like, torch the tower. For 4, they have to bargain their torch the tower. So I really like this. Uh, it does have the Quarry Steel Cutter where you get to go and make tokens to put on the battlefield. Granted, they don't have haste. It also goes and grows your team. I really wish that that flurry keyword that they had, they would have kept, because that would have been fun. Like I know that they don't want to carry keywords over from different sets if they're not considered evergreen keywords. However, it makes things so much easier and so much smoother if you could just go and reference to the keywords. I guess you could sell it could help with the station cost, Darth, because it's making more bodies, but stations just I none of the stations that have cards with stations that have been previewed so far are cards I care enough about investing into the station cost. Ilvoy Galeblade is a 1 mana mono blue jellyfish warrior with flash and flying, and for 2 mana, you sacrifice this creature and draw a card. It's a good limited card. It's probably not going to see it anywhere else. I actually. Does this replace Spyglass Siren in Demir decks that want to just go and cheat out Kaido? Because you flash this out on your opponent's end step, and then you can Kaido in the turn after it comes out. It could maybe see standard play. Would it surprise me? Interesting. Yeah, the point is relevant, Darth, because it is a set mechanic. It's just these station cards, I feel like they played it too safe with station that they were worried that they were going to become a problem. What they really needed to do with station is make it that station didn't have timing restrictions. Make it crew like vehicles were. If they made it crew like vehicles, then even this additional cost, like these high cost of 12 or 20 to go and get it turned on, wouldn't feel as bad. But the fact that I have to go shields down to go and crew my station for an effect that is either not that good or it's going to cost me a lot of power to go and do, I'm not a fan of. Hole Carver. It's a single black for a robot assassin with Death Touch, and it's a 1/1. Just a limited card. We get so many one drop Death Touchers, but yeah, just a limited card. Tapestry Warden. It's a 4 mana robot soldier. It's a 3/4. It is mono green, has vigilance, and each creature you control with toughness greater than its power assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. Oh, it's a Butts commander. Each creature you control with toughness greater than its power stations permanents using its toughness rather than its power. Now, this is interesting. I didn't actually read this card until just now. We are losing pretty much all proliferate effects in Standard Darth because those were all with March of the Machine and War Brothers War. Because those were with the poison set. Um, this is a card that's going to see Commander play because all of the Defender decks or Toughness Matter decks have green in them. This could make stationing easier because, like, for instance, this one it has a toughness of 4, so it gets stationed with 4, and it has vigilance, which sucks if this, which allows you to attack with it, then tap it, but it sucks if because station's always sorcery. But yeah, it has vigilance as well. But yeah, I this card I think is going to see a lot of play in Commander. Probably my favorite card that was previewed today, and it's definitely going to be the most impactful in Standard. Consult the Star Chart. It's 1 and a blue for an instant that has kicker for 1 and a blue. So if you kick it, it's a total of 2 and 2 blue. You look at the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of lands you control. Put one of those cards into your hand. If the spell was kicked, put 2 of those cards into your hand instead. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. I think that this card kicks stock up out of decks. I've never personally liked stock up because stock up is a sorcery speed where you have to tap out on turn 3 to go and cast it. And for me, turn 3 is a very pivotal turn in standard, where that's where the turns where the impactful creatures start to come out to play. That's where your Gixes, your Preacher of the Schisms, are all come out to play. That's where you get the funeral room or whatever the demon room. That's where that comes out. So not having it to be able to go encounter or removal and tap it out for stock up, I've never liked. Consult the star charts. Triggering off of lands and how many lands you have is really important to me, and it makes it really good in the late game. Uh, I for 2 mana and doing an early game, most of the time a minimum of two, and you get one. So it's essentially scry two, get one. Late game though, even in standard, you're going to be looking down between 7 and 10 cards deep to go and pull your two best cards. Stock up only looks at 5, and it's 3 mana for a sorcery. This is 4 mana for an instant, so it's like Memory Deluge. And Memory Deluge was the amount of mana spent, and its flashback cost was 7. So this is going to be looking down just as deep, if not deeper, than Memory Deluge did in late game. Sure, you don't get to cast it twice like Memory Deluge, but I think that in the long run, this is better. And I think that this is actually good enough to go and see Commander play, because long games of Commander, especially if you're in a deck that's ramping and getting a lot of lands out, you're able to go and dig 12 to 15 cards. And it almost works like a pseudo tutor when you get to go and look at 20% of your library. I think this card is super strong. This card was actually previewed yesterday, but Scryfall didn't upload it until today. It's Unravel. It's a 3 mana instant that counters target spell. If the amount of mana spent to cast that spell was less than its mana value, you draw a card. They talked about this on stream where they don't like giving you something back, but they wanted to do it this time because it's like essentially they said if you're cheating on mana and you're cheating something in based off mana, I could go and cheat and get a card back. And that was a trade off there. It's still the sets cancel. And I still don't think it's good enough to see play. Maybe if there's a deck that's going to go and actually cheat stuff into play other than just reanimating it, I could see. But so far, where standard is right now, you're paying full mana cost for a lot of stuff, because even though we have the cost reducers with the crystals from Final Fantasy, people really aren't playing them because it is too slow to play them. In Commander, if you want to play a counterspell that's going to end up being cheap in cost, which I'm sure this will be, and you're doing it in casual Commander, people are cheating costs there all the time. That this will probably draw you a card. I don't really see this seeing play in Standard though at all. And that's it for the main set. Now let's look at the lands from the Stellar sites. They don't have both arts uploaded yet, but they did go and introduce Scavenger Grounds, which I like Scavenger Grounds a lot. It's a card that I tend to put in a lot of my Commander decks, just because even though I love playing around in the graveyard strategies are never my main priority. Even in Conrad, it's never my main priority. That I'm okay with exiling everyone's graveyards. And graveyard hate is important, and you need to play more of it. Power Depot. I didn't even remember what this did. It's a modular land. Okay. Here's what you need to know about this card. I didn't know what it did. So this is probably just a niche card. Petrified Field. This is another card that I didn't know what it did, but that's only because it's only had 2 printings. And it's not really a commander card, but I could see why some people like to play this, especially if you are playing a deck that's focused around a specific land. Like, your Gaia's Cradles and your Cabal Coppers. Inventor's Fair, super excited for this. Inventor's Fair is anywhere from a $10 to $15 card. It's great in all artifact decks. It's even good if you're not playing artifact decks, because in Commander it's real easy for you to get 3 artifacts. And there's always an artifact that you want to get from the deck. So yeah, I like Inventor's Fair. All of them have pretty art though, Darth. Like this, I haven't really seen a miss in the Stellar Sights art. And the Sands, I don't like that they do this with art where they cover the rules text with art. They shouldn't do that, especially with cards that don't see a ton of play, which Endless Sands doesn't see a ton of play. Contested Warzone. I will never play this land in my entire life. This art's awesome, but I will never play this land in my entire life. This is a very pretty art. Cascading Cataracts has seen a ton of reprints lately, and by a ton I mean two. It's a card that when I first started playing Commander, I played a 5-color deck and I played this land, and I haven't played it since. And yet again, art going through the text. Sure, I can read ad, but art shouldn't go through the text. And now these are the new cards from the Jund Commander Precon. They have decided to go and complete land cycles using precons as a way to complete land cycles. So this is the what they're called Tango lands, right? The check lands if you have two or more basic land types. I Since I don't play them a ton, it never clicked with me that they never finished this cycle. But this is Vernal Fen. It is the Golgari Swamp Forest that it enters tapped unless you control two or more basic lands. It's something that I'm happy that they're finishing cycles, especially when this is a cycle that does see a lot of commander play. Festering Thicket, much of the same way as the Swamp Forest, then it's the cycling land that enters tap, but it has cycling too. I don't see anyone playing these cycle lands anymore. So I don't know how impactful them finishing this cycle is. But yet again, I like them finishing cycles. Eumidian Hatchery. It's a black land that you pay 1 life and you add black, then you put a hatchling counter on this land. When this land is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, for each hatchling counter on it, you create a 1/1 black insect creature token with flying. This sounds awful. And the reason why it sounds awful, and in most decks, you're not destroying your own lands. However, in this deck, part of the goal of this deck is to go and destroy lands. Well, sacrifice your lands more specifically. So them creating this and giving the ability to put the hatching counters on it, I really like a lot. Unless you're playing a deck similar to this type of sacrifice your own lands, like you'd have to be playing like Gitrog Monster or Wingwraiths or this Jund deck, something like that for it. Uh, I wouldn't go and play this anywhere. But in those style decks, this card's going to be a lot of fun. Now, this card is stupid. It is, and it's stupid in these land sacrifice decks. It is very similar to Scoot Swarm, but worse. Scouring Swarm is a black and a green for an insect that's a 1/1. Has flying, and whenever you sacrifice a land, you create a tapped token that's a copy of this creature if 7 or more lands are in your graveyard. Otherwise, you create a tapped 1/1 black insect creature token with flying. So this can only be played in these land sacrifice decks because otherwise you're not going to be really able to go and turn this on. Landfall decks this could be played in a lot because a lot of people play fetch lands in those decks. But otherwise, like this card is lands in graveyard Scoot Swarm. I don't think it's very good. I don't think it's going to make a huge impact in any decks, but it's going to be a card that's annoying enough that you have to burn a removal spell on it. Horizon Explorer is a 3-mana 2/4 insect scout. That's mono green. Lands you control enter untapped. Whenever you attack a player, create a lander token. So, Having your lands enter in untapped is very impactful, especially if you're playing in lower power, because it makes your cheap tap lands enter in untapped. Makes them more, gives them more utility. And they're printing a lot more cards that have that line of text on it to have things come in untapped. This second line, though, that whenever you attack a player, create a lander token, it doesn't say one or more. So, in a game of Commander using a standard pod, you could go and create 3 lander tokens, which gives you the ability to go and get 3 basic lands out of your deck. These lander tokens are something that I'm a huge fan of. I don't necessarily know how impactful this is going to be. If people are going to really care about playing it that much, because it is 3 mana for a 2/4, so it's not like super aggressive. But I really like just getting those extra lander tokens. Baloth Prime is a 4 mana 10/10 that it is a beast. That the creature enters tapped with 6 stun counters on it. Whenever you sacrifice a land, create a tapped 4/4 green beast creature token and untap this creature. For 4, you sacrifice a land and you gain 2 life. So when you have stun counters on it, if a permanent would become untapped, you remove the stun counter instead. So you have to go and remove 6 stun counters for this to be a 10/10 that has abilities. In these land sacrifice abilities, the fact that you're getting 4/4s is stupid. And it has the sacrifice land built in, even though you don't really ever want to use it because it's 4 mana. This really reminds me of like Ikoria creatures with this art. Like that this is a guy that might have lived on Ikoria at one time. It looks almost more like a dinosaur than a beast. Exploration Broodship. It is a single green mana for a station, a spacecraft. That for 3, you may play an additional land on each of your turns. Okay. And for 8, flying once during each of your turns, you may cast a permanent spell from your graveyard by sacrificing a land in addition to paying its other costs. This being an artifact that gives you the ability to play additional lands, I could see actually being super impactful because it's harder to interact with, and a lot of the playing your additional lands are creatures, and a board wipes just goes and takes away that ability. And it's really easy to turn this on in green. Like, I would want to drop this on turn 1, and by turn 2, you're most likely having this turned on, if no later than turn 3. I really like this card. It's not as good as Exploration itself, of course, but I think it's good. Planetary Annihilation is 5 mana. It's mono red. It's a sorcery. Each player chooses 6 lands they control, then sacrifices the rest. It deals 6 damage to each creature. I have a philosophical issue with this card. All precons are supposed to be bracket 2 decks. You're not supposed to play mass land destruction in bracket 2 decks. This is a mass land destruction card. I don't care that it leaves every player with 6 lands. In Commander, especially lower power like bracket 2 decks, your games are going to turn 10 or later. You are destroying 16 lands total with a card like this if everyone hit their land drops for 10 turns. This card should not be in a precon and still want to go and fit underneath the bracket 2 no mass land destruction. I think they missed the mark on including this in a precon. I love the card design. This is a card that I could see myself playing in some decks, but never in a precon. Evindu Brush Razor is a 3-mana mono red insect warrior that's a 2/2. That whenever you sacrifice a non-token permanent, exile the top part of your library. And during your turn, as long as you've sacrificed a non-token permanent this turn, you may play cards exiled with this creature. And it has tap, sacrifice a land, add 2 red mana. So it's a mana dork in mono red, but you have to sacrifice a land. But when you're sacrificing that land, it's also giving you card advantage. I actually don't mind this card. I actually think this card is a lot of fun. I do have my Lelia Blade Reforged deck. This card doesn't really fit in there because I was just going through my mind on cards I play that sacrifice permanents. I think it's like Commander Sphere is my only one that's non-token because I don't play any fetch lands in that deck at all. I know that this could trigger it itself, but like the exiling and giving that card advantage, I really like that they did that here. And finally, Eumidian Waste Waker. It's a 4-mana mono black insect cleric. It is a 4/4 that whenever it attacks, you and defending player each discard a card or sacrifice a permanent. You may draw a card for each land put into a graveyard this way. I wish that this said every player, not just defending. Because you could only be guaranteed to draw one card here. This has the problem that a lot of discard strategies have. Mid to late game, your opponent's going to be hellbent, so they're not discarding anything. Or if they're sacrificing a permanent, they're sacrificing a token that doesn't matter. And this has 0 evasion as well. Now, it's cute that it has Encore for 8, because what Encore does is you exile this from your graveyard and you make 3 token copies of it, or a token copy equal to the number of opponents you have in the game, and they all attack those opponents. So you're able to go, if it is a 4-person pod, you're able to go and have a chance to trigger it 3 times. However, overall, I just don't think it's good. It needs to have some sort of evasion to go and make it good. And I just don't think it's there. It either needs evasion or it has to say every player, not just defending. Actually, not even evasion. Give this death touch. If they gave this death touch, no notes. It'd be good enough. It'd be just at that level that you want in pre-con cards. Otherwise, it's just not there. It just doesn't hit. But yeah, these were all the previews that came out for Edge of Eternities today. I will be back again with day 3 most likely, as long as I have time to go and do the video. But until next time, see ya.